Hey everyone, welcome back. We're going to be diving into something kind of spicy today, but also super fascinating.
Yeah, definitely intriguing.
We're taking a look at the male perspective on the female orgasm.
Ooh, getting right into it.
We found this Reddit thread actually from AskMenAdvice, and it was basically a woman asking like two really interesting questions.
Okay.
Can men feel when a woman orgasms during intercourse?
Okay.
And does it taste different during oral sex?
Oh, wow.
So we're going to be kind of breaking down these questions, looking at all the different responses.
Yeah, this thread got over 100 comments.
Wow.
So a lot of different perspectives to look at here.
Yeah, and mostly men responding, so that's really interesting.
A lot of personal experiences.
Exactly. All right, so let's start with that first question. Can men feel it when a woman orgasms?
Right.
And it seems like the overwhelming majority say yes.
Yes.
Like there are a lot of guys who are describing distinct sensations when their partner climaxes.
Yeah, and they describe it in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
You know, some say it's like a subtle squeezing, or others use terms like pulsing or electric.
I saw one who said it was like rapidly clenching and unclenching, almost like spasms.
Wow.
He even said his girlfriend can dislodge condoms using those contractions.
Really?
Yeah.
That's pretty powerful.
Yeah, so that actually brings up like an interesting point about the cervix, right?
Yeah, during orgasm, the cervix actually dips down and contracts rhythmically.
Ah.
So it makes sense that guys would feel that,
And like it's not just internally, right?
right? Some men mention noticing external changes too, like a woman's butt muscles tightening.
Interesting.
But it's not just the physical stuff either.
Yeah, a lot of the comments mentioned like noticing changes in breathing or overall muscle tension, and of course vocalizations.
Yeah. That's where things get really interesting because it seems like guys who are really in tune with their partner aren't just looking for one specific thing.
Right.
They're picking up on a bunch of different cues.
Yeah, it's like reading their partner.
Exactly. One guy actually said that being a good lover is all about being able to read your partner.
Totally. And sometimes those cues are pretty obvious.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
A lot of guys talked about the increase in lubrication.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Using terms like Niagara Falls.
Uh-huh. Which, I mean, it's funny, but it highlights like the point that there are a lot of physiological changes happening.
Right.
And it's kind of hard to miss.
Exactly.
So, okay, we've established that a lot of men can feel when a woman orgasms.
Right.
But that second question, does it taste different during oral sex? That's where things get a little more
Yeah.
divided.
Yeah. A lot more varied responses here.
Yeah.
Some are adamant that there's no difference at all in taste, while others say it becomes sweeter or richer.
Okay.
And then you have some who say they can't really taste much of anything at that moment.
Right. I can see that.
Yeah. So not a clear consensus.
But this actually brings up something really interesting.
What's that?
What if the taste, or even just the physical sensations men experience, depend on the type of orgasm a woman's having?
That's a great question. We know that women experience orgasms in different ways,
Right.
from clitoral to G-spot to blended orgasms.
Right.
So it's definitely possible that those variations could create different sensations and even tastes.
Which would explain why we're seeing like such a variety of responses.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it just highlights the fact that like
Yeah.
there's no one female orgasm.
Right,
You
yeah.
know, it's different for every woman.
It's diverse and individual.
Yeah, and I think that makes this whole conversation like way more complex.
Absolutely. And it's not just about orgasms either.
Uh-huh.
It's about recognizing that all sexual experiences can be really different from person to person.
Yeah,
And that communication is so important.
totally. And speaking of communication,
Yeah.
a lot of women actually jumped into this thread and pointed out what they call the Kegel conundrum.
Interesting. What's that?
Basically, they were saying that some of the physical signs of an orgasm, like vaginal contractions, can actually be mimicked through Kegel exercises or even just deliberate clenching.
So it might not always be what it seems.
Right, and one woman even shared this story about using Kegel-like clenching to stop unwanted penetration,
Wow.
which is kind of unsettling, but it shows you that like you
Yeah.
can't always rely on physical cues.
Right.
Like communication and trust are so important,
Absolutely.
especially in those kinds of situations.
For sure. All right. So welcome back to our deep dive into the male perspective on the female orgasm.
Yeah, and this time we're going to be looking at some of the more
Colorful.
colorful, creative descriptions that came out of that Reddit thread.
Get ready to laugh.
Oh, yeah.
Because some of these are pretty wild.
Yeah, definitely. So remember that phrase, baby batter?
Oh, yeah.
It seemed like a lot of guys were using that as a euphemism.
Yeah, for male ejaculate, it's a classic. Although someone did chime in with Baby Gravy, giving a shout out to the movie Tropic Thunder.
Oh, nice.
Which, if you haven't seen it, is hilarious.
Yeah.
But I digress. Um, Even the terms for male ejaculate are a source of humor
Right.
and debate, apparently.
Oh, my favorite was protein.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you got to give them points for creativity.
Yeah. It seems like humor is often a way to deal with these kind of awkward topics.
Right, exactly.
And this thread is a prime example.
Yeah, speaking of awkward, one guy said it feels like she's trying to spit him out when she orgasms.
Oh, wow.
And another one said it's like being kicked out.
Those are some interesting ways to put it.
I know, right? What do you think those kinds of comments say about the experience?
Well, on the surface, they're funny.
Uh-huh.
But I think they also suggest a sense of forcefulness that some men feel during a woman's orgasm. Like, it's not always this gentle, subtle thing.
Right,
it can be pretty powerful.
Yeah, and it reminds me of those involuntary muscle contractions we were talking about earlier.
Exactly.
Like, it's a real physical event
Right.
that both partners can feel.
For sure.
Oh, and things can get pretty wild.
Like, how wild?
One guy even compared it to being attacked by the facehugger from Alien.
Okay, that might be a bit much.
I know, right?
But I guess it speaks to that element of surprise or even fear that some men might feel. Like, it challenges that idea that men are always in control during sex.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, and don't forget the guy who said his girlfriend's thighs feel like they're crushing his skull.
Oh, yeah.
Ouch. A little dramatic, but it does highlight the physical strength women have.
Yeah, even unintentionally.
Right.
So we've had some laughs.
We have.
And explored some pretty unique imagery.
Definitely.
But what does it all mean?
Right. What's the takeaway from all these descriptions?
Yeah.
I think it just reinforces the idea that there's no one-size-fits-all when it comes to the female orgasm.
Right.
You know, just like men experience variations in their own sexual responses, women's experiences are diverse too.
Totally.
And they can be powerful, surprising, even overwhelming.
Yeah.
And not just for the woman, but for her partner as well.
Exactly like we've heard everything from subtle squeezing to intense spasms. From baby batter to Niagara Falls.
Right.
And that's just from this one Reddit thread.
Exactly. Imagine all the other experiences out there.
I know, it's crazy.
It really is.
So I guess the point is,
yeah,
approach sexual intimacy with curiosity and an open mind.
Be willing to listen and learn from your partner.
Yeah, because if there's no correct way for a woman to orgasm,
right,
how do we avoid those expectations and assumptions about what it should feel like?
Yeah, how do we know what's normal?
Exactly.
I think that's where communication comes in.
Again.
I know I sound like a broken record.
Yeah.
But it's crucial.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to sex.
Okay, so not just talking about what feels good physically.
Right. It's about creating a space where both partners feel safe to be vulnerable, to share their desires and even their disappointments.
Without being judged.
Exactly.
So basically, instead of faking it,
yeah,
women need to feel empowered to speak up.
To guide their partners.
Right. And be honest about what's working and what's not.
Absolutely.
And I guess on the flip side, men need to be willing to listen.
Yes.
And ask questions. And prioritize their partner's pleasure.
It's about connection.
Yeah.
Not just performance.
And sometimes that might mean admitting that you're not always on the same page.
That's okay.
Yeah.
You know, it's a journey.
Right.
It's about learning and adapting to each other.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
So what happens when that communication breaks down?
Ooh.
What are the implications of faking orgasms?
That's a great question.
Yeah, and one we need to explore further.
Yeah, definitely.
But we're going to save that conversation for part 3.
Right, so stay tuned. All right, so we're back, and we're going to be talking about something kind of sensitive, faking orgasms.
Yeah, it's a topic that a lot of people avoid.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's important to talk about.
Definitely. And I actually saw this one comment in the thread from a woman who was like, do men even know when we're faking it?
Oh, wow.
Which I thought was funny, but also kind of highlights the problem.
Yeah, that communication gap.
Right, exactly.
Can really hurt a relationship.
So why do women fake it in the first place?
I mean, there are tons of reasons.
Yeah.
Some women feel pressure to perform, you know, meet their partner's expectations or avoid hurting their feelings.
Yeah, makes sense.
Others might do it to speed things up, especially if they're not really enjoying themselves.
Right.
And some might do it to protect their own ego.
Like to avoid feeling inadequate.
Exactly.
So it's almost like a defense mechanism.
In a way, yeah.
To cope with It's a situation that feels uncomfortable.
Right. And we have to remember that society puts a lot of pressure on women when it comes to sex.
Yeah, like this expectation that they should be having these mind-blowing orgasms every time.
Exactly, which is just not realistic.
So then when those expectations aren't met,
Uh-huh.
it can lead to like shame and self-doubt.
Right. And faking it might seem like the easy way out.
Right.
But it just creates more problems in the long run.
Right, because then the partner who's unaware
Yeah.
is getting this false sense of accomplishment.
Exactly. And it can make it really hard to talk about the real issues.
So basically, faking orgasms is bad for everyone involved.
Pretty much.
So how do we encourage more honesty in the bedroom?
You guessed it, communication.
You're on roll with that one.
I know, but it's so important.
It really is.
And it's not just about saying what feels good physically.
Right.
It's about creating that safe space for both partners.
To be vulnerable.
Yes, to share their desires, their fears, even their disappointments.
Without feeling judged.
Exactly.
So women need to feel empowered to speak up.
And guide their partners.
And men need to be willing to listen.
And ask questions.
And it's not about achieving a specific outcome.
Right.
It's about the connection.
It's about a shared experience.
Yeah. And sometimes that might mean admitting that you're not on the same page sexually.
And that's okay.
It's all part of the journey.
Exactly. It's about learning and adapting to each other.
So to wrap things up, we hope this deep dive has given everyone some food for thought.
Yes, and maybe even sparked some important conversations.
Honesty and open communication are key.
For any healthy relationship.
Absolutely. And don't forget to subscribe to Voices of the Soul and check out the Shauna Pillai YouTube channel for more content like this.
Thanks for listening, everyone.